Welcome to the Medium in the Middle podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, the medium in the middle. This podcast is going to walk you through my journey into mediumship and how I came to realize that I could communicate with souls that have passed over. My adventure started just over a year ago when unusual situations started happening to me. It wasn't until I really started to pay attention to them that it all started to come together. I wrote down everything that I was experiencing this past year in a little black book, and this podcast is going to be a recap of all of those memories leading up to where I am today in my mediumship journey. I will be releasing new episodes every Tuesday, and I recommend listening to the podcast in order, starting with episode 1, as my story will unfold more week by week. If you would like to stay connected with me, follow me on Instagram at Medium in the Middle. Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 21. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. So for today's episode, I'm just going to jump right into it because I have a lot to say, and I'm actually going to split this episode into 2 parts because it's quite a long story. It was all in one day, but there's just a lot to cover. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast, and it will let you know when I release new episodes every Tuesday. And I would love a rating and review if you use iTunes. If you just scroll down to the bottom of the screen, it's super easy. You can just press 5 stars and leave me a little review, and I would love that. It helps people find me the more reviews you have. So thank you. Okay, let's jump right into it for real this time. So to keep in our timeline of the stories that I've been telling you, this experience happened in September 2019, and I'm recording this episode in January 2020. So September, October, November, December, January. Well, still for 5 months before. Woo, time flies. Okay, so this is 5 months ago that this happened, and today's story is about what happened at my cousin's wedding. So as we all know by now, I live in Banff, Alberta, Canada, and I am from a town in Ontario. So I was home in Ontario for 2 days for my cousin's wedding, and this is what happened. So obviously I knew and I was planning to go home for my cousin's wedding, and for about a month before I left for the wedding, I had a dream 3 times that there was a man who wanted to say a speech at the wedding in honor of the bride. So I had this reoccurring dream multiple times, and I didn't exactly know who this man was, but I knew he was connected to the bride's mother. So I thought maybe it was the bride's grandfather, the father of her mom. So I had this dream 3 times, which made me really think like, okay, when I'm there, I should probably ask if this man is alive or if he has passed, because he might have a message since he's come to me in my dreams 3 times before the wedding. So in the dream that I was having, each time he was trying to say a speech at the wedding. So I could see a head table and I could see this man getting up and I could tell he was older and he was saying a speech, and it was all very generic things, which is why for the first few times I had the dream, I didn't really think anything of it because I was like thinking to myself, this seems very basic. He's not saying anything like, he wasn't giving me any specific details on anything. He wasn't saying names. He was just being very generic. Like, I'm very happy to be here. I'm happy to see you get married to my baby girl. Like, it was all kind of just normal things, which is why I thought I was maybe just thinking this instead of maybe channeling it or receiving the information. For me, when I'm doing some kind of channeling or speaking with the spirits, I've never had a spirit kind of say, I miss you, I'm fine, like I love you, like kind of those basic things that you might expect them to say. They always say something specific, and it's usually kind of hard to hear, or it's what you need to hear, or it could be what you want to hear, but usually it's what you need to hear. So I'm used to it not being so typical, and this just seemed like a kind of normal message, which is why I was thinking that I maybe was making this up. So fast forward to the day of the wedding, I didn't really tell anyone about these dreams because It was really busy for me before the wedding, and then I was only home in Ontario for 2 days, so it was a whirlwind weekend. And I just didn't say anything to anyone because, again, I didn't think that it was that important, and I didn't think that it was real. Just because I didn't have enough information to go on, I didn't want to go with this message of, oh, this man who's connected to your mom, who might be your grandpa, is just really excited to see you get married, and he wishes he was here. And I feel like you guys were very close, and you had like a close relationship. He like kept calling her like my little girl, like my baby girl. Like it just felt like there was something special there. So I didn't want to deliver this kind of vanilla message when there wasn't anything really moving. I didn't have any names. I didn't have any ages. But I did know that it was important because I've dreamt about it 3 times. So I was in this little kind of pull and tug of not knowing what to do, not wanting to seem crazy, not wanting to ask, and then her grandpa not be passed away. So I was kind of going through this in my head. So before I continue with the story, I just want to put a pause on where we are, and I want to explain a separate thing. So at the wedding, we were obviously all drinking, having fun, and one of my very, very strict rules is that I will not channel, I will not talk to a spirit, I won't do Reiki, I won't do anything if I've inebriated in any ways. There's this level of disrespect that you have when you do something when you're under the influence. So for me, if I'm drinking, if I'm out, I don't like to do Reiki. I don't like you to ask me about someone and want me to channel because I'm not in the right mind. And also when I'm drinking, I guess you could say my gates are wide open. I'm very, very sensitive when I'm drinking, and I have to be very conscious to close and lock my gates so that I can just go out and be a normal person. For a very, very long time, when I would go out drinking, I couldn't be in a crowded bar because I'd be really close to someone, and the longer you stand beside someone, the more I can pick up on. So I would be picking up on so many things when I got home. I wouldn't be able to sleep because I would be buzzing with other people's energy. I kind of thought about it like if I was a sponge when I was out, I was just soaking up other people's energy all night. And then when I got home, I was literally buzzing with energy. But the problem is that I didn't know who it belonged to. I didn't know who the messages were for. I didn't even realize that I picked it up. So I would have this very uncomfortable feeling, and I would be up for hours trying to clear other people's energy because without knowing it, I was picking it up all night long because I was so open and sensitive when I'm drinking. So this was a big thing for me where I didn't want to go out with my friends. I didn't want to go for dinner because then I would be sitting close to someone for a few hours, and I couldn't go to the movies with anyone. I couldn't do anything where I'd be sitting beside someone for a long period of time or where I'd be in a crowded space. So I couldn't go to like a pub, I couldn't sit at a bar, I couldn't go to concerts, anything. And it was affecting my life because I had to say no to all these things that I would want to do, but I just didn't want to feel the way I felt afterwards. And I did consciously know that I was picking up things when I'm out, but I didn't know how to shut it off. So when I finally did find my mentor, which I've talked about her a few times on this podcast, this was one of the things that I brought to her that I really wanted help with. So I told her that whenever I go out, this would happen. And then when I come home, I can't sleep. And it's even worse when I'm drinking because I feel like people can ask me anything when I'm drinking and I'll just tell you. And she was like, well, why do you do that? And I said, well, I don't know. I kind of feel like I have this obligation that if I know, I need to tell them, or if they ask me something, I just answer, I just blurt it out. And she said, absolutely not. And she said this sentence, which I repeat to myself probably 15 times a day now. She told me, it's not your job. And I was like, what? She said, it's not your job. It's not your job to tell those people. It's not your job to pick up on the energy. It's not your job to relay those messages. It's not your job. And I was like, but it is because these people are coming to me and they're reaching out. And what if the spirit has something important to say to them? And what if like this message has been trying to get through for so long? And then they finally met me and I'm the person that can tell them. She said, nope, it's not your responsibility to be out in the world doing this all day, every day. She said, how do you go to the grocery store? I was like, I avoid people. Like when someone walks down the same aisle as me, I go the other way, or I don't stand somewhere too long. And she's like, you can't live your life like that. She's like, we still have to be normal, functioning human beings. She's like, I could go to the grocery store and be there for hours channeling for people, but that's not my job. They didn't ask for that. You know who asked for that? The clients that come to me and sit in my chair and who are looking for that information. She's like, these people don't want to know, and it's not your job to tell them. And even if they do want to know, it's not your job to tell them. She's like, if someone wants to come see you, let them come see you. When you're out for dinner or at a friend's house or you're drinking at a pub, that's not the time. And this was really hard for me to kind of accept, because to me, I felt like I had this obligation to deliver the messages or to tell people when they ask me. So I had a long conversation with her about, well, what do I say then when people ask me? Or how do I just not say the message, not receive the message? Like, I just don't want to know if I can't say it. And she said something to me that I still use today. She said, you need to turn your volume down. She's like, you need to turn it down, turn it down, turn it down so that when you're out, you're not hearing all these things, picking up on all these things. So I don't have to do it as strongly anymore, but before I left my door, I would close my eyes and I would picture like a big silver dial, like almost like, you know, the steering wheels to a boat, how they're like huge, almost like something like that. And I would turn it down, turn it down, turn it down, turn it down. And then I would squeeze it tight. And I would literally picture in my mind this thing turning until it was locked. And I would say, I'm not picking up on anything tonight. I am not open tonight. So then when I was out, if that little dial came loose where I would start to pick up on something, I would say, turn the volume down, turn the volume down, turn the volume down. And I would literally repeat it to myself in my head until my volume was down. So now if I'm going to like a big event or I'm going to something where I know I'm going to be around a lot of people or something like that, I'm always like, turn my volume down, turn my volume down, turn my volume down. And if someone asks me something, because it does happen a lot, I'll get into that, I just, instead of thinking about what they're asking me, I just think, turn my volume down, I'm off. Like, I'm not working. This isn't the time or place. This isn't appropriate. I've maybe had a few drinks, or I'm maybe just out and I don't want to be channeling constantly. I'm a normal human being. So this was something that I really had to learn. So the second big lesson in this is, what do you do when you're out in social situations and people are asking and they're interested and they want to know, and you get the, well, read me. Well, what do you pick up on me? Oh, if I wanted to talk to someone, like, could you do that right now? And it's almost like I become this party trick, and I don't like it, because it's like you have to prove yourself, and you want to prove yourself because you want people to believe, and you want your reach to be bigger, and you want people to get it, and you want people to have their own experience. But at the same time, I'm thinking, I'm not a party monkey who's just like, dance for me, dance now. That's not how it works, and it's disrespectful to kind of what I'm doing. It's not just like, now, go, start. So again, I went to my mentor and I asked her about this. Said, well, what do I tell people when they want this instant reading? They want something for themselves. They've heard something about me and they want to experience it now. And she said, oh, you just need to make it into a joke. She said, you'll find a few lines. You'll find something to say. Just say, oh, I'm off for the evening. Or if you really want to know, make an appointment. Or, oh, I have a bad signal right now. Haha. And this felt really uncomfortable for me. And it's come up a lot recently, especially with Christmas party season. As I mentioned last episode, I think, I went to a Christmas party and everybody was introducing me as, hey, this is Steph and she talks to dead people. And a few people were like, oh, like, what do you have for me? Like, can you read me? And I always try to be kind. And I say, oh, like, I need to touch you and we kind of need to be alone. Like, when there's other energies around, it gets a little harder for me. Like, okay, well, what if we just go to this room over here and do you just have to touch my hand? Like, how does this work? Like, what can you tell me? And I'm like, no, like, I'm drinking right now. I try not to do it when I'm drinking. Okay, well, just like, could you just try? And then it's like, no, I'm off. I'm out at a party. And if you do want a reading, come for an appointment. Like, here's my card. And it's not that I want you to book an appointment because I want money. It's just, I'm not working. I'm off. I need to still live a normal life. And when you get into a channeling session, it's not just like, hey, Grandpa Bob says hello. It's like, okay, sit down. Grandpa Bob has this to say and that to say, and who's this, and who's your sister, and what about the kids, and what about this car? It's time consuming. We can sit there for an hour, and now I've missed an hour of the party. So I just wanted to preface that with, I normally am very, very, very strict that when I am drinking, I am off. Closed for business. The curtains are closed. The door is locked. Whatever mental thing you need to do, I am just off. So we're going to jump back now to the wedding. I was there for my cousin's wedding, and my cousin's sister is one of my very best friends, and she has told all her friends about my podcast. Shout out to Mimo for hustling all her friends to listen to me. I appreciate it. So when I went home, all of her friends were super excited to meet me or super excited to see me. And a lot of their friends had been listening to the podcast. So this kind of thing was happening where they all wanted a little something, and totally innocent, and it was fine. And I was really good, like, no guys, like, we're at the wedding and I can't right now. And they were all cool with it, and they just talked about the podcast, and I was super happy about it. But then I got drinking, and it was late in the evening. We were probably about 11 p.m. and the information just started flowing. And the dream came up again. So I remember I was dancing, and I was dancing beside the groom. And I started to remember my dream. And I was thinking, ask him, that's my cousin. So I said, ask him if the bride's grandpa on the mom's side's passed away. And I was like, no, we're dancing at his wedding. Like, it's 11 o'clock. No. And I got, no, ask him. Just ask him. You don't have to say anything. So I said, okay. So I say, hey, cuz, is the bride's grandpa passed away on the mom's side? He looks at me. He's like, yeah. And I was like, huh? He's like, why? I was like, well, I dreamt about him 3 times, and I think he might have a message. I was like, do you think she'll want to hear it? He's like, I don't know. Should we go ask her? And I was like, oh, like, no, but yes. He's like, okay, let's go ask her. So we go over to the bride, and he says, Steph has something to ask you. And I was like, oh, geez. Is your grandpa on your mom's side passed away? Yeah? Why? Well, I've had a dream about him 3 times, and I think he has a message for you. She was like, oh my God, really? And I was like, yeah, like, do you want to hear it? I know it's your wedding day, and we're dancing right now. And she's like, no, I want to hear it. She's like, and my mom will want to hear it too. Can my mom hear it? And I said, yeah, of course. Like, let's go get your mom. So we go together, and we find her mom, and she tells her mom the Coles Notes version of, hey, this is my husband's cousin, and she's a medium, and she has a message from grandpa. And her eyes light up, and I was like, your dad's passed away? And she's like, yeah. And then I was like, okay, do you want to sit down? They say, okay. So we sit down, and I tell them about the dreams that I was having, and I tell them, I know it's a very simple and basic message, but I just think it's important that you know that your grandpa's here today, and in my dream, he was like saying a speech as if the things that he would say as if he was here. So he was saying that he wanted her to know that he was so proud of her, and he was so proud that it was her wedding day, and that his little baby girl was getting married. And I said that I felt that they were very close and that they had a special relationship, the bride and the grandpa. And he wanted to say that he was very excited for her special day, and that he is with them watching down on everything that happened. And he was just so happy and so excited. And I kind of delivered this message to the mom, and we talked for a little bit, and the bride was there too. And they were very happy to hear from them. They both shed a few tears, and they thanked me for the message. And then I kind of ran away because I was thinking that, I don't want this to go any further. And as I was running away, the mom and the bride were walking towards their sister who was pregnant, and I could tell that they were starting to tell her the message. So I stopped, and I came back, and I kind of smiled awkwardly. And then the sister who was pregnant, she started to cry when she heard the message from the grandpa. So I came over just to kind of be comforting and be like, hi, like, that's me. And the mother asked me if I could tell the sex of the baby because she was pregnant. And I said, yes, I can. I just have to touch her belly. And then we all agreed that I could touch her belly so that I could figure it out. But the mom didn't want to know the sex. So only the grandmother did. So anyways, she said, I don't want to know the sex of the baby. And I said, okay. And I think I was talking about the baby and I said the word her in a sentence. And the mom said, well, who's her? And I was like, oh, whoops. I was like, the baby is a girl, I think. And I think that you're going to be in labor 2 weeks early and it's going to be on a Tuesday or a Thursday. And I said, and your husband's going to go away on a trip on the Sunday, but don't let him go because when he goes, you're going to go into labor. And I said that your labor was going to be good, but it was going to be 12 hours. Like it was going to be a long labor. So after that, I kind of walked away and I was just laughing. And I said, that's all you guys get to know for now. You don't even want to know. I don't want to give you information. So then I was kind of on and open. So I walked onto the dance floor and I started dancing again. And I'm with my cousin's friend who also listens to the podcast. And I was kind of just at this point rolling with the punches. So I walked onto the dance floor and I'm dancing with my cousin's friend and her sister is pregnant. And I said to her, you know your sister is having a baby girl, right? And she said, yeah, we do know that. She's like, how do you know that? And I was like, I just know. And I kind of smiled and danced away. And then a few other things also happened. But I think I'm going to end this episode here because there's 3 more people that I kind of danced around that I said some information to, but they're longer stories. So I'm going to stop this episode here at part 1 of this 2-part series. I do want to add a disclaimer though. So for the bride's sister, where I said that the baby was going to be a girl and 2 weeks early, I want to say that I was wrong. I am not always right. And the baby was a boy. And I don't believe it was 2 weeks early. I believe it was 2 weeks late. So I was very wrong on that. And I kind of think that I wasn't told the sex properly because the mom didn't want to know. And there is this level of respect that it was the grandma that was asking. And the mom was just kind of like, yeah, like if you can tell me, go ahead. So I kind of think I was told wrong on purpose. But who knows? I could have just also been drunk and off the rocker. But it was funny because on the Sunday night before I predicted that she would be going into labor, I texted my cousin and I said, hey, like, is the bride's sister in labor yet? I'm like, because if it's not tomorrow, my money's on Thursday. And they responded, I'm just going to read you the text message conversation. No, not yet, but her husband did get called out of town for work. She's like, he got called today to go out of town this weekend. And I said, oh my God, I told you he would. I'm like, he can't go. I'm like, she's going to go into labor. He said, LOL. He's like, but he got called for this coming weekend. So then I said, okay, then maybe I'm a week off. And if he gets called in this weekend, it'll be next week. And they said, I don't know. But when Dan got called in today, the sister was like, oh my God, oh my God. And I said, oh my God, is he going to go? And she said, yeah. He said, yes, but it's just for the weekend. So then I responded, ahaha. She was like, oh my God, that crazy lady at your wedding told me this was going to happen. She even said, no, he wouldn't get called to go somewhere for work. And I was like, he's getting called to go somewhere. Even if it's not for work, he's going to get called to go somewhere. And I remember saying, like, maybe he's going to go on a golf trip or maybe he's going to go somewhere. And then they responded, I know, haha. She was like, oh my God, it's happening. I was like, well, tell him to keep his phone close. They said, I will. So that is what happened. I got a message, I guess a few weeks after that, saying that it was a boy. And it was really funny. It's funny because when the husband got called to go to work for the weekend, 3 of my cousins called me being like, oh my God, he got called into work. You said he was going to get called into work. They said he never gets called into work. And then as soon as the baby boy was born, I got all the calls again being like, you were wrong. You said it was a girl. So it was funny. It was really good. And I'm always happy to be wrong. I mean, stay humble. And there's certain things I want to be wrong on. But for this one, I definitely think it was because the mom didn't want to know and it was being respectful. And also maybe because I was drinking and they were just like, F you, Steph, we're not giving you proper information when you're messing with us. After these two things happened, there was 3 other people that I channeled for that night. I was kind of just on a roll and I rolled with the punches. I felt good and everyone was being super nice and super supportive and very much like, if you're cool with this, we're cool with this. So I'm going to loop those 3 channeling sessions, I guess you can call them, into part 2 and talk about what happened. So again, if you want to stay connected with me, just press subscribe. I will pop up in your phone whenever I release new episodes every Tuesday. You can follow me on Instagram at Medium in the Middle. And yeah, I will talk to you all next week. Bye.